Hey everyone, welcome back to Lowlands Wargaming. Today marks a full hobby day for us.
Yeah, the first one with the new edition.
Yes, so the new edition just launched last Saturday. It's now Tuesday. We've already been busy, but we're planned out a whole day of hobbying today. Also together with Sil manning the cameras right now. We're going to spend the entire day doing some hobbying, also recording a battle report, I think.
Maybe, possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
With some new models.
Yeah,
maybe, possibly.
We'll see how far we can get. But yeah, we're super excited. We've already recorded a whole podcast about the new rules. So all of the changes in the new edition, you can listen to that here on the YouTube channel, but also on our podcast on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Music, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different places where you can listen to it. 4 hours. It's a long one.
Oh, it was such a long one.
Yeah.
Until midnight, I believe.
Yeah, no,
one.
Oh,
man,
one at
yeah.
night. And
One
then I
at
had a
night.
tournament the following day. Which went well, so it's all good.
Not
It's all
complaining.
good. Yeah,
No,
not complaining. Yeah. So, what are you excited about today?
Well, I'm really excited to start painting some new Rohan models. I've already put together and assembled all the models, as you can see here on the table in front of us. You also did a few Rohan and Dunlanding models,
Yes.
As you can see. I really like the new sculpts, so I'm really excited to get some paint on them. I'm gonna try a few painting techniques that I thought of in advance. Contrast plus method, I think, somewhere with a few regular paints, a few contrast paints, and see how it works out on the new models, because the details are so crisp on the new sculpts that I really think that contrast paints are a good way to go and really make them pop, but in the same time also have like a sort of semi-quick painting scheme that I'm not stuck in these models for like 20 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm mostly excited about.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Well, I'm really excited about Dunland. And also why I painted some, or not painted, I assembled some Rohan guys, because of course Thorn the trader can take some Rohan warriors with him as traders of Rohan. And I figured I wanted to give them all spears, so I've even converted some models already, and I have nice 3D printed bases that I use to kind of like tie the whole army together.
Yeah.
So what I'm really excited about today is to try and get some paint on a Dunland warrior. Similar to you, I think the details really lend themselves well to washes and contrasts and things like that to really speed up the process, and then do some manual highlights here and there. So I'm going to try and do a test model for Dunland today and kind of figure out my paint scheme.
Yeah.
And then hopefully maybe kit bash some more models together, because I have a lot to go, because Dunland is a high model kind of army. So we'll see. We'll see what we can get. But I definitely at least want to finish a single model at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Awesome. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about assembling the models, Tim?
I felt two ways about it. On the one hand, it was really cool being busy with like all the new details.
Yeah.
And fitting them together and seeing how a model is, how they divided up the model on the sprue and how they are put together, because they really did that professionally here, because you barely see any mold lines. The way it is that the stuff is fit on the sprue usually means that you're not seeing any like sprue residue. I don't know what the right word for it is, but
yeah, the clipping marks.
Yeah, clipping marks.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of cleanup you need to do, because they've all hid those marks pretty well on the attachment points. I also had two negatives when assembling the models, because on the one hand it took you way more time assembling them than what you usually do for Rohan or for MESBG models.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's something I heard a lot of on the internet online as well, in the different groups and communities.
Yeah, because it's funny, right? Because we've waited so long for like new style plastic warriors, and now we finally have them, and people aren't used to it, because MESBG models have always been like 2-part models for normal warriors at most, or maybe 3.
Yeah.
And now suddenly we have, what is it? I think
it's like 4 to 8 parts per model.
No, it's
something
more,
like
because Wildlings, the number goes to 108.
Yeah.
And 4 of those are weapon choices. No, 8 of those are weapon choices. So 100 parts for 12 models.
100 parts, so it's
It's
like eight
eight parts per model or something. Yeah, because it's 2 legs, 2 torso pieces. A head it's sometimes it is on 1 piece for the wildlings and 2 pieces for Rohan usually.
Yeah.
And then there's like arms and then weapon bits and stuff like that. And sometimes they're 1 bit, sometimes they're 2. So it's a lot, but I love it because like look how pretty they are.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
I mean, I'm kind of weird that way because as opposed to a lot of people, I love assembling models.
Yeah.
Like clipping stuff off the sprue and putting them together and gluing it. I love that way more than I think a lot of people tend to. So it wasn't a big negative for me, but I'm stating it more as a negative that most people have.
Yeah.
So it takes more time to put a model together.
That's true. It definitely takes a lot more time, which is something that we need to get used to if we're getting more of these plastic warriors, which I really hope we do.
Yeah, and once again, I don't mind, but it's a complaint a lot of people had.
Yeah, and like one minor complaint I have personally is like I not only love assembling models, but I also love kit bashing them.
Yeah.
And with these really weird sprues where there's like half a torso and half a cloak all warped and stuff, like these kits aren't interchangeable, like these kits. So like I think the best way now to kit bash these models, other than like doing simple hand swaps and stuff, which you can do with the individual bits.
Yeah, and that's something I did.
Yeah.
So for my Rohan warriors, when I put them together, I first put together the first 12 normally, like via the instructions. And then I basically did weapon swaps for the other, not other 12, because there are 4 bows in there, but for the other 8 that had hand weapons and throwing spears.
Yeah.
So I have 8 bows that are the same, so 4 models with 2 poses. And all my other poses are unique poses.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because I did the hand swaps.
But like my point was, if you now want to convert models, it's slightly trickier. I think you almost, for the Wildmen, for example, need to assemble them first and then chop them up in order to convert them, because like their face, their head, like part of it is part of the bit of the torso, and then you just glue the face onto like the back of their head, basically.
Yeah.
So then if you want to do a head swap, you need to like cut off part of the torso basically in order to do that. So it might be easier just to assemble the full model first and then use like a hobby saw to cut things up and
I definitely think that would be better. I assembled all the models first for my Rohan boys as well, and then cut off the hands and swapped the weapons.
Oh yeah, no, I did the drilling before gluing the bits on.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And the second complaint that I had, or the second negative, is that on some parts, like the really small finicky parts, which are mostly like arrow shafts and stuff like that, it's kind of hard clipping them off the sprue. Like I've assembled by now in the past years hundreds of models, and for me even 2 arrow shafts broke when I clipped them off the sprue. And it's like really annoying to put that back together. Like you can super glue it or plastic glue it, definitely, but it won't look as nice as it used to. And I mean, if we're talking about people that we want to get started within the hobby with this box set, they're gonna have a really difficult time properly assembling all the models, I think.
Yeah. What I will say though is for the complexity of the bits, they did glue together really nicely. Like it was for most things really obvious what the right orientation was and slot together nicely.
Yeah.
I had a few instances, mostly with the mounted version of Wolf, where there was like an arm that you had to glue on and it wasn't immediately obvious what exactly the right position for it was, which only became apparent as you added more bits later.
Yeah.
And thankfully plastic cement remains a little bit pliable, so I could force it back into the position it actually needed to be in. But that was the only one where I was like, okay, this slice as it were was not as intuitive as the rest of it. But overall, like, I mean, we're complaining a lot now. These models are fucking
like those are the 2 minor complaints that I had, but I had a really good time assembling them.
Yeah.
And once I was done assembling, I was in awe at how cool the new models are, especially the new hero models. It's even better than the old Rohan hero models, like old in parentheses that came out, like the new Aimer sculpt or the new Durnhelm sculpt,
so
which were already
plastics,
amazing. The plastics, these are even more detailed and better.
Yeah,
it's really amazing.
But like, you probably can show some B-roll, but you're like dry brushing the white on right now.
Yeah,
and you can see all the details immediately pop.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. I'm really excited to see how contrast paints work on these models, because there's so much detail to catch. So yeah, I'm really excited getting started on painting them later on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Why are you painting Rohan?
Well, because I like new toys. That's one. But also because in previous, shall we say it, seasons or tournaments, I never really fielded Rohan, while I have basically the whole army up in my cabinet upstairs. And I especially liked like the new plastic models, so like the new Durnhelm, the new Eomer. I have the Elfhelm Forge World sculpt, and I really like the look of those models. And I was always wanting to play them at a tournament, but never really got around to it because I was mainly focusing on Angmar. So when this box was announced, I was like, yeah, this might be the time to focus on Rohan and get started with those, and try and make an army with basically all new models. So what I'm really hoping for is that they still come out with at least a Riders of Rohan kit, new one, plastic kit. And so I can basically field like a whole new Rohan army. Plus I'm also planning to buy like the new Hera model. If they're gonna bring out one, a new Helm Hammer hand model before he went nuts. And there are also still a few new models in the army books that have not been, that they don't have sculpts for.
Yeah.
So it's like the Freyalaf, the Leif, all those types of models.
Yeah.
So I can field like basically a whole new Rohan army list. So mainly focusing on Army of Edoras. I think that's where they all come back into.
Yeah.
But yeah, those basically are my plans. Yeah.
Awesome.
How about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm painting up the Dunland side right now.
Yeah.
I kind of lean towards evil armies.
True.
At the moment, although I do really like my Minas Tirith and stuff. And I just saw the aesthetic and was like, yeah, these look cool. You know, the flaming brands and everything. And then when the rules came out, I was like, oh yeah, this actually looks not bad. So it's a very hoardy army with lots of model count. And then, you know, the mechanical thorn bringing some traders and getting those mixed in with the usurpers. It speaks to me. I kind of like the idea of it. I don't know if it's actually very good, because I haven't really played it yet. But the idea is just nice, and I like the models. So I was like, you know, let's do it. Let's go for it. And I spent a lot of time getting like bases ready and stuff ahead of time. I even painted some Kerbane up, and just excited to give it a try and see how well it plays.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like it's always fun to start a new army, right? Because it can give you lots of hobby motivation.
Yeah.
And really start to get that ball rolling again. Because that's something like we really discussed before the new box came out, that we both had some issues with hobby mojo.
Yeah.
And trying to decide what we're going to do next, and not really having the motivation to really finish something or start up something new. And I think this is an awesome chance to really get that new hobby mojo going and get excited about the new stuff that is coming out.
So it's about 2 in the afternoon now.
Yeah.
I've been at it for a few hours. How are you doing?
I've set my mind on a painting scheme. I've determined the colors I wanted to use.
Yeah.
And I tried the slap chop method with dry brushing.
Yeah.
But I finally decided on just using my regular Zenithal highlight method, because I saw that when I put on the contrast paint on the slap chop, it didn't give me like enough contrast and colors on the raised and deep parts. So switched that up. But besides that, I'm pretty happy with my models. I finished one. I finished my first bowman, and now I'm working on the second model with an axe and a shield.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm loving these models, man. They're so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you?
Yeah, so I've been working at 2 wild men at the same time because I want to try out a few different colors. And I've decided on the paint scheme where there's a variety of colors, but they're all kind of muted and dark. So blues and reds and stuff like that. Some greens.
Yellows.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sneakers,
yellow sneakers. And then if they have like a sash, like some of them do, then I want to have those always the same color, so like a muted red. So that kind of ties the army together.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's the way they determine they can separate friend from foe, maybe?
Maybe,
in their world, yeah.
So I might do something similar with the traders, where they look like normal Rohan guys, but then they have like a red armband or something. Which would be kind of interesting.
Sure.
So then I decided that the colors were a little bit bright, so I washed everything with the same brown to kind of tie it and drab it down together, because after all, these are wildmen and they're nasty and you know,
they don't
rugged and
Yeah.
don't have good personal hygiene. So that worked actually. So I did a few choice highlights here and there. Had a bit of a struggle trying to paint the torch because painting fire is hard. And I suck. But I'm quite happy with them. I just did the basing. I'm gonna do the edge now, and I'm gonna call these two done. And I'm pretty happy with the direction I'm taking for the paint scheme.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna have some close-up shots of the models when they're done.
Yeah.
So people can look along.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they're looking great.
Yeah.
And I like the style of your painting where you really can see the different colors.
Yeah.
And it's sort of more vibrant feel.
I don't like painting my models super dark because then in close-up it looks really good, super realistic, but then from a distance on a tabletop they kind of just disappear.
Yeah.
And I like being able to kind of see the army from a distance as well. It also doesn't help that I'm slightly colorblind, so I prefer it when things really stand out because that's easier for me to see as well.
Yeah.
So that's also why I paint a certain way.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, cool.
Well, let's put the finishing touches on. Alright, well, that's a hobby day complete.
Yeah, it was a full day of working with new stuff, and I really liked it. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, no, it's great. Like, we're stopping a little bit early because we're going to record a battle report now.
Yep,
so
definitely.
we could have gone the whole day, but we also wanted to do some gaming.
Yeah.
These new sculpts are amazing. They take to paint really well because they have lots of details, but they aren't overly finicky. There's a few like details here and there that are kind of hard to get to nail absolutely perfectly, but you can also kind of gloss over those and just paint the big strokes, as it were.
Yep.
And they take the detail really well. Contrast works well, washes work well, dry brushing or edge highlighting work really well. So yeah, it's really nice painting these sculpts.
Yeah, it's really top of the line. There are like some little parts, depending on the positioning of your model and their weapons, that are a bit hard to reach with a paintbrush, but not so much that it can mess up the rest of your paint job. So you need to be a little bit precise, but that's okay. And what I really like is that there aren't that many different parts or let's say textures used that you need to use like 10 different paints.
Yeah.
You can paint these models with essentially like 4 or 5 different colors and maybe a white, so you can mix up some highlights and that's it. And use a wash or two and then you're done. And I think that is really beginner friendly.
Yeah, it's nice. I think it's a little bit harder for the Wildmen because they have different cloth layouts on all of them because they're like a ragtag rabble, right? So they are wearing whatever they got their hands on. Some have more fur, some have less fur, and I'm trying to like mix in different colors to make them all not look the same. So it's kind of tricky to still make it feel like an army, but like a ragtag unit. So that needs some more experimenting on my part to find the colors that work well and I can like mix up a little bit.
Yeah,
paint them all a little bit individually.
Yeah, I can understand that. But even then, if you have like 5 or 6 different colors, if you have like 3 browns and maybe a beige color or a bone color, you can mix up those browns as well to also get like different results, right? So even then it is beginner friendly, and yeah, I really like it. Like there were a few parts that really excited me on painting the Rohan warriors. I really liked painting the capes because there are more smooth sort of rounded edges, and there are hard crisp lines, so you can really make a big differentiation in your edge highlighting. And I really like the shields. Like the shields and the wood grain in the shields, it's so much fun to paint and highlight. Maybe you can see it in the close-ups in the video, but man, did I love painting that. It was really awesome.
Yeah. For me, I really like painting the fur and the hair because they had quite crisp lines. They're very easy to highlight. So like just a base coat of like a contrast or base color, a wash, and then a highlight really makes that like volume pop. Yeah. Especially with the guy with like the black gray hair, that worked really well. I'm really happy with that.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm really excited to get into like the rest of the box set in the coming few months and see how they actually perform on the tabletop, because that's basically the next thing, right?
Yeah, same for me. The next few months I'm gonna try and finish a nice list for usurpers. and see if they play well.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get a Rohan list started, a new one with Hera and like a few of the new models, and see how they perform. But I'm really excited. Yeah.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm happy and looking forward to the rest of the edition.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this hobby journey for a day with the new edition, and we'll hope to see you in one of the next videos.
Yeah. Thanks everyone, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
See you later.